This logo is an amazing development for Wonder Woman 2. And some of you might be like, what are you talking about, Grace? It's just a logo. So what? It takes place in 1984. Well, when you see what I've uncovered, you are going to be as blown away as I am. And I can't wait to share my findings with you so your enthusiasm for Wonder Woman 2 can go back up to an 11 like it has for me. Because, we were questioning a little bit after the casting of Kristen Wiig. And, them doing something in the past. We wanted something after Justice League so she could keep powering up, right? But I think this is going to be worth it. Oh boy! But the reason I have such a strong beginning to this video, so positive, is that there's a little bit of a negative to get out of the way at first. And that's that when they teased this logo on Friday, it wasn't just Patty Jenkins, but it was also Geoff Johns. How is he still involved in this movie? I mean, I know he and Patty Jenkins became very close making the first one, but we're talking about a guy who did such a bad job with Justice League. He got fired along with John Berg from handling the DCEU at large. And while he might say that Green Lantern wasn't his fault, how does he explain the sneak peeks we've been getting of the streaming shows that he's in charge of, right? Like, it's a lot of overwhelming negative evidence. But he does have some positive evidence on his side. His brilliant Batman Earth 1, Volume 1 and 2. So it means he kept it going. It wasn't just, lightning in a bottle. And it really is one of the best Batman stories ever told. It's an Elseworld story. You know how I like those. But it's one of the best Batman stories, period. And in fact, if he is behind any of the genius that I see brewing with this 1984 choice, well then, this will be as good as his Batman Earth 1. So Geoff Johns, I guess we'll have to settle for being wildly uneven. But anyway, on Friday, he and Patty Jenkins teased this logo for Wonder Woman. And everyone said, all right, 1984, we have our year. And I was shocked that no one thought to ask, why 1984? That really boggled my mind. I actually have a theory as to why nobody asked it. But I did ask that question, and in my search for an answer, I decided, as I said, that this is a brilliant, absolutely off-the-charts brilliant choice. All right, so why did nobody ask it? Well, I suspect it's not just because this is a comic book movie, but because it's a DCEU comic book movie. And nobody gives them the credit that I think that they deserve, particularly the first Wonder Woman, a very sophisticated movie. So it makes sense that it would continue on that sophisticated path. Although Alan Heinberg contributed a lot of that. I don't know. He contributed the Disney Princess stuff. I'm not quite sure who contributed all the World War I stuff, so maybe it was Geoff Johns and Patty Jenkins. But anyway, it's very frustrating to me because I think also the speed might have been an issue. Everyone was like, oh my God, the logo's up, quick, cover it. That no one, again, paused to think why. Well, I took a couple of days, thought about it, and the first thing that struck me was the blatant reference in the design of the logo to George Orwell's 1984, one of the defining works of the pop culture idea of a dystopian future. That is huge, right? It's a whole lot of the group over the individual, right? The government spying on the people and censoring the people. Cats and dogs living together. You get the idea. But this logo, this is so good. It also mimics one of the most famous commercials of all time, also based on George Orwell's 1984, Apple's 1984 Super Bowl commercial, which was, again, also based on Orwell's novel. I'm getting ahead of my notes here. I'm so excited. And who famously saved the day there? Some of you might already be putting the pieces together, but it was a woman, UK athlete, Anya Major. And of course, Diana had large ties to the UK and Europe overall. I love that they've made her a European-based hero. It works with Gal Gadot's accent, and you already have Batman and Superman in the United States. It makes total sense that Wonder Woman would be European-based. Now operating out of the Louvre, which is so cool. So the correlation there, and to do something that's more than just a comic book movie once again, it's coming together beautifully. Now, 1984 is in fact the year that the Apple computer first hit stores, a milestone in technology, the advancements of technology. So Wonder Woman 2 might not only be dealing with the Cold War, but rapidly changing technology as well, and its reach with government and also society. Woohoo! But there's even more! All right, so 1984 was also the first year that a woman walked in space. Oh my God! First for Russia, in fact, and then the United States the exact same year. And it was also the first year that a woman piloted a Boeing 747. And of course, Wonder Woman is famous for flying, either herself or in her invisible plane. However, on a more serious note, and I would love it if the DCEU goes here, not just because of Diana's compassion and willingness to face the horrors of man, but also because it would continue to differentiate the DC movies from the Marvel ones. Not make them better, but make them different. It's something like a darker, more sophisticated and real-world approach that exists in the comics. That's the difference. To see that continue in the movies, as I think it has, would just make me so happy. All right, so this is so good. In 1984, well, it's tragic, obviously, but it's just such an amazing opportunity. If they don't do this, they're stupid. So in 1984, this is the year that the U.S. government officially addressed, and in the eyes of many, finally acknowledged the AIDS epidemic with a historic press conference in 1984. And considering what Wonder Woman means to the LGBT community, it would be a game changer to introduce an LGBT individual to Wonder Woman's inner circle at this time, and how AIDS either impacts that individual directly or those around them, and therefore Diana. That would be, I mean, look, think about when she was looking around at the horrors of World War I. This is amazing. It's in line with what they did with the first film, and it's just spectacular. Also, in 1984, that was also when crack cocaine was introduced to the United States. I can't believe how this all lines up. What a year! I think that everybody now largely knows that it was a condoned effort on the part of the U.S. government to sacrifice urban communities in an effort to fight communism abroad. Another game-changing tragedy that Wonder Woman would be smack in the middle of. Wow! All right, now in comics, moving over from history, well, the history of comics, in 1985, Crisis on Infinite Earths began, one of the biggest crossover events in DC history. And Geoff Johns is a big fan of this story, writing its follow-up. And DC, was trying to get its house reorganized with this story, and it decided, because of poor sales for Wonder Woman, to make both her and Steve Trevor Earth 2 characters, so that Wonder Woman could be reinvented by George Perez, who did so spectacularly. Therefore, 1984 was the character's last year before a sort of rebirth, so that could be explored as well. Now, there's one other thing that we need to touch on here. It's a long shot, but I think that it works so well with the 1984 choice that it would be irresponsible of me not to put it on your radar. All right, so the big villain in Orwell's 1984 is Big Brother. And of course, if you're a DC fan, you're thinking Brother Eye. Now, that character it largely has to do with Batman, but Brother Eye did become a big enemy of Wonder Woman and the Amazons overall. And one of the biggest moves that Brother Eye made was to broadcast footage of Wonder Woman's murder of Maxwell Lord. Remember how I always get upset that they took the neck snapping away from Wonder Woman and gave it to Superman, and it didn't even work giving it to him? But she, killed Maxwell Lord. He's basically the Purple Man. He can control people just by talking to them, or I think it might be mind control, but he controls people. And he was controlling Superman. She's like, "How can I stop you?" And Maxwell Lord's like, "You'd have to kill me." And she called his bluff. But Brother Eye broadcast that footage across the world, hurting her image with not only the world, but also the Justice League. And it was successful, obviously only for a while. Now, Pedro Pascal, I could see him playing Maxwell Lord, but I still think it's more likely that he's playing Deimos, one of the sons of Ares, who in the comics had a hand in creating the tension of the Cold War between the Soviets and the United States. I think Brother Eye is likely too big a concept for a standalone Wonder Woman movie, and again, Maxwell Lord is too similar to the Purple Man. But it didn't stop them from getting rid of Steve Trevor in a very similar way to how Steve Rogers punched out, right? So maybe they could do it, and Brother Eye could be a great thing to tease, even just tease in this movie, for something that could maybe come along down the line. It would work. It would be very much along the lines of the world building that you see in the MCU, and it would make sense. So again, I just wanted to put it on your radar so you would be ready. So how do you feel about the 1984 choice now? It's so freaking amazing. Again, the first Wonder Woman certainly was this sophisticated, and I am furious. I continue to be so furious about this, that movie was not given any credit for that sophistication, and everybody still isn't giving these Wonder Woman movies the credit, because how could you miss the George Orwell connection? I mean, again, you have to do a lot of research to get this other stuff, but to me, the logo just screams 1984 and that Apple commercial. And so the fact that this was missed by pretty much everybody who covered it, they continue not to give the DCEU and at least the Wonder Woman movies the credit that they deserve. All right, so share your thoughts down below. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.